Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Facebook. How are you doing? YouTube and LinkedIn. We are live for our first Thursday live of 2026. We're going to do a couple of housekeeping. I just want to make sure I'm live before I get started and make sure everything is going on. So, you guys have been seeing the team. We just ended Women's History Month and we celebrated a lot of women members in the chamber and the organization and just women leaders that have been doing a lot of awesome things throughout the CSRA as well. So hopefully you guys got to check out those posts from our marketing vendor and marketing team as they really dug into the crates to celebrate a lot of folks. And tonight I have a special guest. And as I said, if you've been at any of our events or so forth, with our closeout, our opening up event, any of our calls, that we will be covering cybersecurity and artificial intelligence this year here at the Greater Augusta Black Chamber of Commerce. So let me do a couple just housekeeping rules just to let you guys know. Our annual event is coming up. Come celebrate our 9th year with us. It is May 29th. Tickets are currently on sale and there are early bird specials happening right now. So you don't want to miss out on an early bird. And it does sell out every year, so you don't want to miss out and not get your ticket, and then you can't be in the room. We will have a dynamic celebration, if that's a word, because we are hitting our 9th year, and that is amazing for organizations to start from scratch and to make it to this milestone before we hit our 10th year anniversary. So let's get right into this conversation, because I've been talking to Jeff a little bit behind the scenes because I want to get all up in his business. He is the owner of Blue Space Security. So Jeff, make sure you unmute yourself. And then I want you to just tell people, just not a lot, but just a little bit of who you are and what Blue Space Security is about.
Yeah, so I'm Jeff Gaston, and so I'm a cybersecurity professional. Really got my roots in that from the military, and doing a military career. And I was thinking, hey, I'm interested in entrepreneurship, starting my own business. And I said, hey, why would I wait until I get out of the military? Why not do it now and have a whole separate thing working in that? So I had some success in real estate, got my bachelor's in computer science, and I'm finishing up on my master's in computer science from Georgia Tech. And then I spawned Blue Space Security. So we're a business that is very determined and helping businesses manage the risk in cyberspace, right? It's trying to show businesses and train them on cybersecurity is not that hacker that's behind, the computer that's just trying to do bad things, but it actually presents a risk to your business and preventing you from conducting operations, costing you money, not just your large Facebook, Googles of the world, but even small businesses, because small businesses are also a target, right? Even and some of those adversaries prefer those small businesses because they don't have as much money to afford those large cybersecurity firms to provide services, right? They have a large attack surface, but they're easier to attack. So this is what we're trying to do here at Blue Space, to help you secure your cybersecurity, protect your business, and overall also integrate AI to help you scale and be successful.
Okay, so I heard you got into the AI. So before we get into the business and what all you do, now, tell us about how you became an entrepreneur, like the story before you opening your business. Tell us a little bit about that. I know I didn't tell you I was going to get a little bit into your business. So, but we got to know the story, so we can inspire others. So what is the story of you getting into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so that's a great question. For me, it's a deep desire to help make the world a better place. And so I'm a hard worker by nature, and I want to do a lot, but at the end of the day, we all have 24 hours in a day to do everything. And, even if I didn't sleep, I didn't eat or do any of that stuff, I only have 24 hours. Right. And so towards really like achieving that goal, I had to get into business. I had to get leadership positions and help leverage other people's 24 hours a day who, have the same ideas and mentalities as I do to help make the world a better place and like form a team and for us to be successful. And so business became that way to do that. When I was in high school, there was the Chamber of Commerce that had events that I participated in that taught me leadership, that taught me business, that taught me a path to achieving that goal, and to what I define as success. And so that became the natural thing for me to go into business and start this. All right. So interested in community service on the side. One day I want to start a nonprofit, in education, help provide kids that don't have many opportunities, those opportunities, a path to success. I don't think anybody is born that says, I'm going to be the worst person in the world. I think it's just everybody's trying to figure out how do you be what you define as success, and just trying to help provide that.
Okay, awesome. So when did your business start?
So started the business last year.
Okay.
So I've been doing some work even before we officially became an LLC, but got the papers back from the state of Georgia March 18th of last year.
Okay, so did you have a history of being in cybersecurity?
I do.
Okay.
So I've got almost 10 years of cybersecurity experience.
Mm-hmm.
So from military. So I was a 17 Alpha cyber warfare officer. Got a lot of technical, managerial, and leadership experiences from that. And naturally, I thought, hey, how do I leverage that skill set, that experience and expertise, and spin off into an actual business and go into the market and provide value. And so from that experience, this brought me to here now.
Okay, that's nice. And I asked that question because we do have a lot of things that are changing within our market, especially across the United States, right? There are a lot of folks who are finding themselves unfortunate in layoffs. Oracle just laid off, I don't know how many employees, but I think it was like 12% of their workforce. It was a lot of people, right? And so as people find what that next thing is after dealing with a layoff, or, the job market is changing in America, I think it's important people hear more of our member stories and entrepreneur stories so they can understand that you can then transition to other things. So it's so good to hear that you were in the military. This was your skill set you developed in the military. So now you are an expert, and now you are providing your services as a business owner, which is a sovereign platform, which I keep telling everybody, sovereignty is the way to be through the shift of the world that is happening right now. That way you can either go in and work for somebody, you can also be an independent contractor, you can also own a business. It's so many options there when you have a skill set that you can, leverage that way. So I just love to hear those stories, and I want to keep reminding people as much as I can of that. And so people can get into that realm of entrepreneurship. Now, let's kind of ask some questions, because why would I care about having cybersecurity as a business owner?
Yeah, so that's always the great question, right? Especially, that's something that I deal with often. And I think it's because cybersecurity is not just something that is like a technical thing, but an actual risk or something that could pose a challenge to your actual operations for your business, right? And so, today in our integrated world, you cannot avoid, network computers, right? Being on the internet, using computers for your business. And just like using computers, there's going to be threats, right? So you're going to log in every day, you're checking your emails, using your CRM platform to interface with your customers, on a day-to-day basis. This is how we are conducting business in this modern age. Now with cybersecurity, the challenge that presents is things like ransomware. All right, you have a routine, you have an operation that you come on your computer and you interface, you move product, and you find out that either your employee or your computer has been compromised. And now when you're going to log in, you can't log in, right? Everything's stopped. Now somebody's saying, hey, we want you to pay thousands of dollars, right? If you're a small business, your profit margins may not be that large, right? And so now they want you to pay $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 to get access to your systems. And even in that time and not having that, it's costing you money. It's costing you emotional energy. It's costing you a lot of resources that you cannot afford to lose. And so that is a risk that cybersecurity is presenting. And again, it's not the targets are not just your large businesses. It is also your small businesses, your schools, your hospitals. All of these things are targets. And people are still using ransomware. People are still using phishing emails. People are using ransomware. And like now, a lot of times I feel like people are getting like, accustomed to that. Like, yeah, whatever. I have an IT team that handles that. Well, IT team, as much as they try for security, at the end of the day, their job is to keep the network running. You're not going to yell at them because they forgot to, enforce multi-factor authentication or whatever other cybersecurity thing, you're going to yell at them because your internet stopped working or this new update is causing problems, something that's preventing you from moving forward in your business. That's what they will prioritize, is making sure everything's moving forward. But the challenge is things moving forward in cybersecurity doesn't necessarily mesh well. Sometimes people are not necessarily properly trained on how to utilize cybersecurity tools, in which case it then causes problems. And so why should people care about cybersecurity? It's because that can cost you time, that could cost you money. It can slow down your operations. It presents a risk to your relationship with your customer, especially for small businesses. We want to provide value to our customers. We want to make sure they trust us. And when your systems are compromised, that hurts that. And it's something that you have to be proactive about, right? You can't just say, hey, whatever, I'll deal with it when it becomes a problem. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, as a cybersecurity professional, if you're waiting like that, there's only so much I can do. And if you don't have the right things enabled, like your logging, to let me know what people did when they got into your networks, then my hands are going to be really tied in trying to help. But it doesn't have to be something crazy expensive. They can start with something simple like cyber awareness, security awareness training. Not super expensive, very basic, very things to get people thinking about cybersecurity. These small things can go a very long way.
Gotcha. So if I just don't know where to get started at as a business owner, and I'm like, okay, my business is, I'm self-employed, because that's where a lot of business owners find themselves, or they're, a solopreneur. And then some people have 2 or 3 teams, or most people really use contractors, right? Vendors nowadays, to bring in as teammates. And then they're using artificial intelligence, which is like boggling my mind. We're going to get into that in a minute, because it kind of boggles my mind with the cybersecurity. And I'm like, how do you keep things secure and you now have a computer access and everything? That you're going to have to tell me how that works. But going back to if I just don't know where to begin, and I've never really had cybersecurity, because that's very clear for those of us who maybe have been in the military or in corporate, and we understand the need for security and those type of things. But for an entrepreneur or business owner, they may not understand the importance. Where should they start? I heard you say something about training and then things, and then maybe some other things they can do. But what actually things should they start at to make sure their business is secure?
Yeah, so that's exactly right? Like cybersecurity training, I think, is a great avenue to start. It answers some of the questions you just thought about before, like why is cybersecurity a problem? Right, that's the first big thing, and cybersecurity awareness training will answer that question. So that now, when you're operating your computer or answering emails or things like that, you're better aware of what risks you're accepting when you're performing your duties, right? So I think that's the first initial start. For those companies or businesses that have an enterprise, or where they have actual networks on premises, or even have things like you're using cloud services, or actually building some of these things, they can go into actual hiring consultants. People will come in and they will learn about their cybersecurity, their networks, right? What is their attack surface in cybersecurity? And then we'll give them advice on that. Or even having sorry about that, accidentally hit the mute button. But so even having vCISO, services, again, these things do not have to be super expensive, right? It could be something that's over an hour, or you can have an agreed upon budget and say, hey, we're willing, I have a budget for this. I'm willing to charge, this is how much, this is my cap. And I want, this is the services that I'm looking for, right? It can be those kind of things. And it could be, it's not something that has to be like a consistent thing. You may be able to do it every so often, once a quarter, or, there are guidelines such as NIST. There are nationally published guidelines to say, hey, answering some of these questions for small businesses, these are things that you can do to make sure that you're aware of your risks in cybersecurity, so that your company, your business continues to thrive, right? And it continues to grow and be successful.
Yes, I love the once a quarter option. because as business owners, like, we're always trying to make sure every business is taking just different measures to protect themselves, but then also just to review the things they need to as business owners. And of course, as all businesses, we all get caught up in the day and just running our business, but then it's really that back end that really really propels us to the next level a lot of times. And sometimes we miss those steps, and we can always go back and get those things in. But if you got them in the first place, it always helps, right? It always is great. So now, with that being stated, with AI, we're going to touch on this now, okay? And we call it AI agents that everybody can use now to get into and answer their emails and to help their streamline their work and so forth. And I know you mentioned that you also bring in the AI. I heard, like,
Yes,
I've been
we do.
listening to the interviews.
Yeah.
So how can you safely bring in artificial intelligence and not be concerned of like finding yourself in a Terminator situation or something?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Everybody hears AI and they're like, they're gonna take our jobs. You're gonna have Skynet come in,
Listen, we don't want Skynet taking us out. Okay, Jeff, how can you help us with this?
Exactly, right. And honestly, from my professional perspective, is AI is a tool. It's another productivity tool, right? It's not here to replace people. It's here to allow people to do more. Now with a team of one person, you can do a lot more than before, right? It raises the bar what you can expect from an entry level position. Yes, and we talked about before, right? A lot of the jobs, a lot of the large companies, as soon as agentic technology came around, they had mass layoffs and took a bunch of people out, and AI was sold as the thing that's going to replace everybody. Well, now what we're seeing in the market is they're bringing all these people back, right? AI is not the big replacer, and it's still in infancy, right? And so it's still a productivity tool, so that your entry level, your fresh college graduate, they're no longer expected to just do data entry. Now, if you give them an LLM, they can do a lot more. They may be able to do somebody who has 5 years of experience could do, or 10 years of experience. And now they're also putting aside a lot of the biases that you may develop after years of a profession, right? And like, they don't have as much emotional buy-in to things. And so when the AI is saying, hey, here's a new way of doing things, they're more likely to adopt it, right? And so what that means for you as a business owner is your business is going to be a lot more productive. Now, instead of only being able to handle like 4 clients, right? Now they can handle 8, maybe 10, 11 or 12 or any of those type of things. And as you mentioned before, right, there are agentic technology. Now, instead of you doing a lot of repetitive tasks, that are constantly, doing the same thing over and over, so much so now that you literally have templated Word documents that you can copy and paste in the email and, change some kind of names. You can have an AI agent handle all that for you, right? You'll set specific conditions and saying, hey, if these emails have this kind of, this kind of approach, here's what response you should use. Or it'll make those decisions on the fly and only involve you when it's necessary, right? You can develop, entire workflows that automate a lot of these tasks for you, and where now you can use your workforce for more intensive things, right? Maybe more things with customer engagement, actually going out and talking to people, allowing you to focus more on the big picture of your business rather than actually producing things or like responding to emails. Now you're thinking about, hey, how do I scale my business? Are we getting enough income? How are we getting enough revenue? Are we having enough profit margin to where we can now open maybe another location, right? Or, hey, how do I pivot? Where do we go to for opening the market? Or do we need to go into a different industry or any of those things? Allowing you as a business owner to make more of the bigger picture decisions that'll actually help your business scale rather than being in the weeds and like doing a lot of those things. And you can also still leverage AI for that, right? Like I'm making sure that with Blue Space Security that we are integrating AI at the ground floor, right? We're making sure we have the most efficient, the most streamlined organization as we can. And it's being built in instead of added on so that we grow. And that's also a benefit I think a lot of small businesses have. Now with this technology, your business is able to grow with this, right? Just like people who have kids. The kids, you have a 3-year-old, you give them the iPad, and they're all doing all this stuff. Next thing you know, they spent $100 on Amazon buying this toy. And you're like, what? How did you learn how to do this? And now they're teaching you how to use the technology. Similar concept applies for businesses. Now your 1, 2, or 3-year-old business is learning how to use AI in a way that a lot of larger businesses cannot afford to do, right? They can't take as many risks. They're a lot slower moving because they're so much larger. Now that gives you a competitive edge as a small business to be successful. So this is one of the things we do, right? As Blue Space is bringing in a consultancy and looking at your business operations, learning what do you have as routine, what are your workflows, and how do we integrate and intentionally integrate AI so that it's not doing anything crazy, right? And so and scale it in a way that allows your business to be a lot more competitive in the market.
Nice. Yes. And so that is a good thing with utilizing AI to definitely help with those tasks that are repetitive, that can then, like you said, get in front of customers' interactions, because I feel like as artificial intelligence definitely takes off, people are going to want more connection with humans, right? And so
Exactly.
then you could leverage your business in that way to use the AI safely in your business to then do those things that answering calls, because I can tell when it's like an AI person's call, and and you can even tell with the emails now if you really are paying attention. But I've seen some that have been really good lately.
Exactly.
Like, oh, this is next level. And so I've even called like, this is AI I'm talking to. This is not the business. But it's been really good, and they've been very responsive and gotten the team involved when needed. But how does a person safely then add that to their business? So is it security protocols you have when you're adding AI into those tasks? Is there some type of security system that they use to do that? What is that technology that then makes them add that AI agent but make sure it's safe?
Yeah, so one of the things we use is Zapier, right?
Mm-hmm.
They already have a lot of things for workflows. And so we want to start small, right? And make sure we have a test environment. And then when we actually bring it to production, where it's actually in your business, that it's still as a small and controlled case, so that we can figure out, hey, if it's hallucinating, right? That's a big thing for AI, is sometimes it hallucinates, and making sure that we can catch that. You can leverage agents to be able to catch that. But then, it is a lot of like testing and making sure that it's done properly. And then also making sure that you don't just give it, free reign to do everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure it's properly handling customer data, right? If your business has compliancy things such as HIPAA, that it's not gonna, there aren't any vulnerabilities within that system, stress testing it so that it doesn't give us it's not tricked into giving another customer's social security number or private health information, right? These are all things that we have built in, and we also do penetration testing, right? To where we're making sure that AI is safely rolled out into production and stress tested, and so that it doesn't have those errors. And we also have you involve a human in the loop, so the AI will do all the work, output the information, and then the person will give the thumbs up or thumbs down on whether that can be actually put out to the customer, or that could be they can contact the customer from there.
Wow. So that all you said, limit what the access the AI has access to. You can even, it sounds like you can have some guardrails with other AI agents watching the AI so it doesn't hallucinate.
Exactly.
Well, I didn't even think about this. I gotta talk to you like for probably an hour about this, because I'm really a nerd in real life. So this is so like intriguing to me. And so then but then also just making sure that, I would say, you probably want to check the AI from time to time, right? To make sure, because I feel like once you kind of get rid of a process, you just let it run and you don't really check it. And then sometimes things may go away. So you got to make sure you still have that human checking component, right?
Exactly.
So that can happen. But I mean, that's all good things to know and so forth. What is some things that you think people should know about cybersecurity and artificial intelligence that we haven't covered? Because it's almost already been 30 minutes. We try to keep these 30 minutes, but you gave out so much information and we're almost at time. So I want to make sure you get out those final thoughts.
Yeah, so some of the final thoughts is that cybersecurity is really important now, right? Especially with AI. So a lot of both the defenders, your cybersecurity professionals, and those people who are seeking to gain access to your networks can leverage AI. So what that means is, now instead of just one person that is only able to do so much, now they also able to leverage agentic technology to gain access to your systems. They can automate a lot of the things that they would normally have to do manually, so that it makes them a lot more effective. So that means that the threat has only increased, right? The risks have only increased in cyberspace. And so now more than ever, you do need a lot of cybersecurity professionals or some cyber awareness, security awareness training to help you be aware of what are the new, latest, and greatest threats, what are the new zero-day vulnerabilities, and what do they mean for your business, right? As something comes out, is that something that you need to be aware of? How do you know that you need to be aware of it, right? A big challenge for cyberspace, right? You can't necessarily see these things. You have to have somebody constantly looking at your networks, your computers, to say, hey, what you have the latest updates for things, or have you already been compromised? There are things that happens. Just because you've been compromised, the person doesn't necessarily have to let you know, right? They can stay and have your computer and leverage your resources for something else. And next thing you know, you could have, in the worst case scenarios, right? Like the FBI is knocking on your door and say, hey, it seems like your computer is doing something that it's not supposed to. You're like, huh? And now you're losing your computer because it may be a part of an ongoing investigation, which leads you to have costing you money. There are a lot of these kind of things, right? And where, again, this is where we step in and making sure that you're aware of your cybersecurity risks, learn about your attack surface. We're a small business as well, so we're not in the business of trying to. We want to make sure we're providing value. That's more than anything to me, right? I want to make sure that we are leaving our clients, our partners, feeling like they have gotten the value, and they're knowing and building that trust, knowing they're to help, right, and help them be proactive. But yeah, now more than ever, especially with AI, people can, if you have that one employee that was upset when you let them go, now more than ever, it is a message away and some LLM on their phone, and now they could leave a logic bomb on your network, and when they leave, now the whole network is down, and it takes time to remediate that. And so, yeah, that's the big thing, is just, the risks have only increased, unfortunately, but also the tools that we have to be successful have also gotten better as well. So cyber awareness, security awareness training, a lot of these things are very valuable to making sure your business continues to run and continues to scale and grow and be successful.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for all that information. Yeah. I do want to ask you this one question. So if a business owner realize they have been hacked, right now, what are the first 3 things they should do? Just 3.
First 3 things they should do. Well, for one is, right, so they need to contact some cybersecurity professional, right? And then, so that way we can figure out, hey, what are the compliancy requirements? Because there are businesses that they have requirements to notify CISA or local government of their compromise in a specific period of time. And if they're not, there are strict fines that are imposed. All right. So first one is that do not just unplug your system. Please do not do that. That's one of the things that people see and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to unplug this or power cycle it or do all these things. And so that's step 1, is to contact some cybersecurity professionals. Number 2 is to figure out what your requirements are. You should have a SOP in terms of how do you respond to some of those things. So that lets you know how much time you have to notify your the local government or whatever agencies you need to notify. And then for 3 is stay calm is the big thing, honestly, right? Work with the professionals, answer questions, please be honest. That's the other thing, is some people are so panicked, and it's an emotional event. People are scared and they're worried about their business. And so the big thing they want to do is, omit certain information and not say certain things. So we need to know what's going on so that we can help and remediate that situation. And so contact professionals, know when you need to notify local government or, whatever you're required to do. And honestly, the third one is to stay calm and communicate.
Gotcha. Okay, so thank you for that. I had to put you on the spot, just ask those 3 questions. Now, how does anyone that listens to this live after we get off or listen to us now, how do they get in contact with you if they want to hire you for your services?
Yeah, so we're all over. We have our own website too. So bluespacesecurityllc.com. You can find her on our website. We have a contact us message box. You can contact me on LinkedIn. You can contact us on Facebook or Instagram and all those things, right? We are available. We are a member of the Greater Augusta Black Chamber of Commerce. We are part of the directory, so you can see our contact information there. And we're more than willing to help. We can always sit down and have a conversation. We're here to help provide value and help your own business be successful, help you grow however we can. So please message us, hit us up, let us know what you need. We're here to help.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you for spending time with us this evening and allowing us to learn more about cybersecurity. And like I said, here at the Chamber members and GABC friends, we will be covering cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. So we have plenty of experts coming before you this year. We already are lining them up so we get heavy into this conversation because we want to make sure that we're doing everything to bridge the gap for technology within our communities, right? And the future is moving forward. The time is now. So we have to get educated and begin to learn these things. And we have our experts right at our fingertips, right on our directory. As Jeff has said, you can go, and there's a lot of folks that are in that space that are part of the chamber already. So one thing I want to remind you guys of is tomorrow morning is already First Friday. And I know it's Good Friday. So for everybody that celebrates the holiday, I wish you a great holiday. Don't celebrate, just rest this weekend, have a good time on spring break, and next week is Masters Week. But I want to remind everybody tomorrow's 8:30 is the economic impact call. We will be talking about financial literacy and finance. So we will have a finance expert on in the morning because it is financial month for April. I can't remember what the exact month is. And then we also have, I think it's Minority Health Month too this month. So April has 2 national months that we do celebrate. And so we will be celebrating it here at the Greater Augusta Black Chamber of Commerce. Also, you should be voting. We have sent out information to let you know we have an election going on. It is officially election season in our area. So we will be having forums the month of April here at the Greater Augusta Black Chamber of Commerce, hybrid, in person, and so forth, along with our partners at the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce too. So you can get informed about what candidates are saying and what your issues are, so you can learn more about that, so you can make an informed decision when you go vote on May 19th. So yes, election day is right around the corner. So you will see that happening as well. Don't forget that gala tickets are currently on sale. It is early bird tickets on sale right now. And then I would just say have a safe and a great break. Everyone, if you're traveling, make sure you're safe. If you're going to celebrate, just make sure you're safe. I know a lot of members I've seen or people I've talked to in the past and all said they were traveling. So I want you to be safe on the roads and so forth, and just have a great time and to celebrate. Jeff, any parting words before we get off?
Yeah, so again, please be safe out there, everyone. Hope everybody's success with their businesses, and hit us up if you need anything. We're here to help.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me this evening. Remember, we are one community and one voice. You want to connect with the chamber, just connect with us at www.mygabc.org. Follow us on all your platforms and make sure you share this live out, because even if you don't need this information, someone else may be looking for a cybersecurity specialist in this area or around the nation. And we want to make sure they can connect with Jeff at Blue Space Security. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.